Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Donnie here, and I'm back with another installment of my classic TV Spotlight series. I mentioned before that now that we're in the month of October, that I'm, all my videos are going to be kind of Halloween related, talking about like horror movies and TV shows. And for this video, I'm focusing on a classic television series. This video actually comes as a suggestion from my future mother-in-law, Joan. Uh, so, so thank you for this suggestion. It's a little TV show called Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Well, the show actually has two different titles: Alfred Hitchcock Presents and the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, but more or less the same thing. It was on for 10 years, for from 1955 to 65. Uh, the first 7 years was when it was called Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but then it expanded from a half hour to an hour in 1962, and later and spent 3 years in that regard. So I figure it's not exactly horror that, but kind of right now, how in October, it's kind of the right time to talk about this show. Is very dark and had some scary elements to it. Was very much in tune with Alfred Hitchcock's film career as well. Like some shows were could be rather dark. And take for example like a film of his like Psycho. But others were more lighthearted and had some funny jokes and irony and that involved. You had take for example a film like North by Northwest, which features lots of humor into it. And I'm a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock. I love his films, and I may do some videos on them, but I want to focus on the TV show for now. So Alfred Hitchcock Presents and the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. It was an anthology show. It was just like the Twilight Zone. It was kind of like a companion piece to the Twilight Zone, uh, where different actors in every episode, when different characters, really there was no like consistency with them. They were all Each episode was a standalone episode, and that was that. Uh, so what was interesting is really weren't any original ideas. Every episode was based off of a short story that Alfred Hitchcock would derive, and the writing and producing team would take from various publications and that. So it became pretty interesting. And then when it expanded into an hour, they would kind of take on some longer stories, even not some more novels, to for the for the material for each episode. So it became very interesting. But one thing I learned in researching this show is how Alfred Hitchcock didn't have as much involvement in it as it did. Like, it was his baby, it was his show, but despite being one of the greatest film directors of all time, he only directed 18 episodes of the whole series, the whole 10 years, with over, a hundred, how many, like 150 goes to 200, 200 episodes of the show. It was not, he only directed 18 of them. He would appear on camera introducing introducing each show. He would usually, come on, and it, there'd be a setup of him talking a little about the episode, but he'd usually be in the midst of some kind of funny skit or whatever, and that was kind of semi related to the show, the episode that was coming out. He would and have a few little quips. And one funny thing he always did, he'd like make fun of the advertising and saying, that they'd have to go to a commercial break, and, it's for because that's how they make their money. Or he'd make funny little jokes about the advertisers, and you know. So there was like some lightheartedness to it, but it did have some very dark episodes. Um, in fact, one episode was actually wasn't aired that the network actually put the kibosh on. It was called The Magician's Apprentice, and what happens is the magician, in question, and kind of a spoiler alert here, but it's just one episode. The magician actually, you know, so does the whole sawing a woman in half trick, but it turns out not to be a trick where he literally does kill her and saws her in half. Now it's too. I haven't seen it, but what the network said was that it was too gruesome and didn't air, but it has since aired in syndication. And it was interesting in my researching the show that there was a lot of like network influence in it, and there was one particular point that the executives really drove home to Alfred Hitchcock and the production team. They wanted to make sure that the audience get the lesson that crime doesn't pay. Now, all the shows, there was mystery elements to it, and usually every episode usually involved a crime being committed. But they didn't want, you know, to glamorize the criminals or, show them getting away with it. But a lot of episodes would end with them seemingly having gotten away with it. But then every episode ended with Alfred Hitchcock coming back for the outro or whatever you want to call it, and he would usually make some quip and talk about how it was unaired, but that person eventually came to justice. And be like, he would say something like, "Oh, they were caught, 3 days later or something, or they confessed or whatever. The guilt took over them. Whatever. It's something." So I've seen it. I've seen the show, and I've seen him do that, and I always just thought it was kind of just some funny little quip, but it was actually just him. It was the network executives telling him that they have to preach this method. So it's kind of interesting, it's kind of a microcosm of the time, and that how different TV is today from back then. That now, like, people love having anti-heroes and you know rooting for characters who do some bad things, and kind of presents a moral dilemma for some kind, but and a lot of network execs would embrace that, and back then it was very, very strict and of the time. So uh, it's pretty intriguing. I recommend the show. It's very like there's not you know it's a little different from the Twilight Zone, that there's really no supernatural elements of it. Everything is really by the facts and believable and could happen. But um, but obviously with Alfred Hitchcock, even with his little involvement, you can still see the influence over it, that they feel like mini Hitchcock movies. So I highly recommend it. It's on, if you're a night owl, it's on Me TV every weeknight at 1 a.m. So if you if you're not, hopefully you utilize your DVR for this, and I believe Sunday nights they show the Alfred Hitchcock Hour uh, at 1 o'clock. So I recommend it if you're looking for something interesting, something that'll make you think, and if you're a big fan of mysteries. Okay, so as always, I'm always open to new suggestions for videos, and hit 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 like and comment and subscribe, all the works. And until next time, take it easy.